What we gotta do? What?
It's your boy, Japanese Tutor, back at it again, and I'm here again with another video on the Dutch defense. This is how to win uh, everything you need to know about the Dutch. I think this is episode 4 now, 4, and we're gonna keep following with the same move 7 B3, and we're gonna go now into our 5th game in the series. Okay, so let's just go right over to the analysis board. Bam. Hopefully you guys are doing great. One note, if you do like the series, go ahead, subscribe, bam, notification bell if you want to hear more. Uh, thank you, Jack. Thank you. I took a lot of time, a lot of time. Thank you for that. All right, so we're gonna go right into game 5. Okay, so we're gonna switch the board since we're learning the Dutch from the black side. So the first move is D4, D4, and then F5. And of all Dutch games, more than 75% start out with this move order. But we suspect that among Stonewallers, the people who actually play the Stonewall, the numbers are closer to about 50%. G3, exclamation point. Okay. Actually, this is a better attempt to take advantage of Black's move order than the overly aggressive moves we shall examine later on. So there's a question right here in the text that says, in which way does 2 G3 take advantage of 1 F5? It allows white to retain maximum flexibility as he can still choose between knight F3 and knight H3, and is not committed to an early C4. This will be a major theme later on. And after D4, E6, G3 is only an option for white if he is happy playing a Catalan after D5. White also needs something against C5, right? So what he's saying in the text is, you play here and then G3. G3 is only good for you if you're fine playing a Catalan after D5. Also, you need something to do against C5 in this position. But nevertheless, played F5, G3, okay, and knight F6, bishop G2, E6, knight F3. This is slightly more popular than on move 4, C4. White gives up the knight H3 option, but avoids the line bishop B4 check. Okay, interesting. D5. Black can set up his stonewall more confidently after white has committed his knight to F3 and given up the knight H3, knight F4 maneuver. C4, C6, and castles. After castles, you have bishop D6, B3, and we all know what to play already since you saw the other videos. Their plan is to try to take away our bishop, right? So they can control the E5 square more effectively. So we're going to play queen E7 just to delay their plan. Queen E7. A question, could instead of queen E7, B5 preempting A4 be an idea? And the answer is, checking the databases, there are in fact 2 games with the move, one by a future GM. We can see no obvious tactical problems, so you can try it out if you wish. However, it looks unnecessarily risky as white hasn't yet played the artificial queen C1. Okay. Boom, A4. Right, so A4 again is saying, hey, now I have another defender here, so now this threat is possible, Okay. White stops b5 and may consider a5, but primarily he seeks a bishop exchange via a3. It can be argued that he saves a tempo over bishop b2, queen c1, and then a3, but that isn't so clear, as exchanging queens on a3 is a plan which white may well pursue even after a4. What is certain is that white has a weakness on b4, right? Maybe we play here, attack here. So we play castles in the game, and he said that this is natural, but in some lines, black's king is better placed or well placed in the center. Uh, the other options that you have here are b6. Uh, it's a flexible and sensible move, but a5 may be the critical reply here. Uh, and oh, okay, so they give maybe a5 instead, which exploits the weakening of b4 and prevents white from advancing his pawn to a5. So maybe that's an interesting thing that they might show us later, or they are going to show us later. Okay, so but they play castle in this game, and bishop a3. Bishop catches a3. Knight catches a3. Bishop d7. This initiates the ancient bishop d7, bishop e8, bishop h5 maneuver. Once black's standard way to activate his light squared bishop. Okay, black's queenside remains intact, but the plan is a bit slow and is gradually being replaced by the modern b6 plan. I like b6. B6 is kind of flexible, you know? You can basically do what you want. You can leave your king in the center, you can develop the bishop, and you don't know really what's going to happen. You're flexible. And that's what I like in my openings, flexibility. But maybe that's not for you. Uh, Question. Why do you demonstrate a game with this bishop development when you generally recommend fianchettoing the light square bishop? That recommendation was intended to give you some direction for your experiments and analysis, not to restrict you to one single mode of development. The bishop d7 development is a reasonable plan unless the classical setup with the knights on d3 and f3 threatens to smother all counterplay. Next we go. Knight c2. Knight c2 is another plan. We're going to play this knight here and transfer this knight over here. Bishop e8. Oops, sorry. Bishop e8. Oops, turn volley all the way up. Sorry. And you're posting the the clip. Thank you for that. Thank you for that in the chat. All right, and then bishop e8, knight c to e1, or maybe we can just play this knight over here and not waste so much time. The setup with the knights on d3 and f3 is an old recipe against the Stonewall. Besides the knight f3 plus knight a3, knight c2, e1, d3 route we see in this game, there are also Yui's traditional knight f3, e5, and then knight d3, where this knight is on d2 goes over here. Right? So we develop this knight from here, and then we put this knight, it starts over here. So here, then we play this knight here, here, here. That's one of the common ways to get our knights there. The Blackburn's route, which is knight h3, f4, and then to d3. And then this knight here and here. Or Skolowski's discovery, which is knight f3, you play b3, knight c3, knight a4, here, and then here. So these are all ways that you can get to this setup with the knights on f3 and d3. Okay, and then he plays knight bd7. So it isn't entirely clear that the light squared bishop should rush for h5 as long as white can respond with knight f4. Okay, right? Because if we put our bishop hastily over here, then they can play here, and now they have some threats over here, right? So said we don't have to worry. We always have bishop h5. We can save that for a later time. Um, so an interesting alternative is d captures c4. So let's go back. An interesting alternative is captures on c4, b captures on here, and then c5. When two plausible continuations are e3, knight c6, queen b3, rook d8. And it says that white's advantage is minuscule, or even it's, or the other option after d captures c4. Sorry, let me just get into that. D captures c4, b captures c4, c5. The other option is d5. Knight e4, queen b3, bishop f7, right? Attacking the line. Bishop d1. Oh, sorry. I think this is rook d1. Sorry about that. E captures d5. C captures d5. Knight c6. This is cute. You can't take because of the pin. And black's pieces are more active. All right, but let's get back into the game. Okay. In the game, we play knight d3. After knight bd7, knight d3. And then knight e4. In an earlier round against Levitt, we got this depressingly passive position after king h8. So instead of playing there, he played king h8 instead. Queen c2, rook g8, which gives us kind of dubious. E3, bishop h5, c captures d5, c captures d5, which is kind of dubious again. Rook fc1, getting all of his pieces over to the queen side because that's where he's attacking, and also eventually, right, we're gonna have more influence over here. C captures d5, rook c1, rook fc1, bishop captures f3, bishop captures f3, rook g to d8, queen c7, rook a b8, queen a5, a6, rook a2, maybe preparing a double up, knight e8, oops, sorry, this other knight, so he can't come to c7, rook a c2. And basically saying like, okay, this position is playable, but I mean, white just has all the activity, and I think even white is better here. So this is what he played when he played a bit more passive. And I think in the Dutch, you have to kind of find that balance of playing passively and also playing solidly. Like you don't want to play passively all game, right? You want to be able to have your plans and your ideas manifest themselves. So I think I really like 94. I like my knight in the center. Okay. The e4 square is one of black's strong points in the stone wall. The knight may be driven away, but only by the somewhat weakening advance f3? Could f3 followed by e4 be a promising plan? Okay, and then the answer is not so long as that was considered one of the white's main plans against the stone wall, but experience showed that black normally got more than sufficient counterplay by means of a central break with c5 or e5. Today, the plan of f3 and e4 is only seen in the top level games after black's pieces have largely been pacified. Queen c1, the incorrect move, queen c1. Knight f e5, knight, and I guess he just wants to prevent this, or maybe play h5 at some point. h4, sorry, at some point. Maybe put his queen here. He's saying that knight f to e5 or queen c2 are better tries for an advantage. But this is what was played in the game. So here, bishop h5, knight f4, bishop f7. This may look like a miserable square for the bishop, but it's only a temporary stop. And while at f7, the bishop supports a kingside initiative. Okay, so it supports the kingside initiative quite well by covering the light squares. So we're doing all these light squares are covered by the bishop. So it looks passive. It looks like a tall pawn, but maybe we can give it some life in a little bit. Knight e5. Knight captures on e5. D captures on e5. d4. Wow. I like that. I like that a lot. But they say that I'm not sure that this is black's best, but it's most certainly the most energetic. And demonstrate the flexible state of mind you need to be in order to play the Dutch or the Stonewall successfully. So this is kind of getting interesting. Let's see what are some other moves that we would consider when playing this. You know, Rook A8 maybe. Get all of our pieces over here to the king side because that's where we want to attack. Maybe over here, and maybe this belongs, right? But I like this move. This move is really nice. Maybe to tie down some of the squares over here. Seems nice. I would play maybe queen c2 after that. We have a lot of attackers here. Maybe f3. Maybe bring the rook over, right? But let's see what happens. So d4. e3. g5. Attacking the knight. Knight e2. d3. Whoa, okay. This pawn is actually becoming like a major threat. He also mentioned that knight e2 to knight d3 was a safer choice. And I think it is, right? We just take and take. Okay, yeah, I think it's a safer choice, but he played here. Maybe he wanted to exchange, so d3. And okay, this is the only way to justify black's 17th move. The pawn will now be a curious mix of weakness and strength, right? Because it's alone. The pawn is alone, so usually that's a weak pawn. But the pawn is so close to being promoted that you always have to think about it. And it's like a wedge in white's position where he doesn't really have much space to begin with. All right, so knight d4, c5, saying, hey, I'm going to keep on pushing you. Going to keep on pushing you. Uh, White's queenside pawns, which are now fixed on squares of the same color as his bishop, may become a problem in an ending. So knight b5, a6, knight c3, bishop g6, saying, hey, I may support this. line here. If you take, I can take with the pawn. And now this becomes a pretty good pawn. And he might have to play f3. So bishop g6, f3. Knight captures here. Queen captures c3. f4. What an interesting game. Maybe I would play here, but wow, that's awesome. Saying, hey, if you take and I take, I'm just gonna be better, right? Because I have a rook eyeing this pawn. If you push, now this is good. This bishop is horrible. It's a tall pawn. I like f4 a lot. What would? Let's see what he says. F is for forward. Okay, it's just as true for the Stonewall as for other branches of the Dutch. This move isn't so much an attacking attempt as it is prophylaxis. Okay, prophylaxis is basically when you prevent somebody from doing something that they wanted to do. So, like a lot of people, when they think about prophylaxis, the easiest concept is when your bishop goes over here to attack a knight and pin the knight to the queen, maybe you play h3 so that the bishop cannot go here anymore. Now he has to find a new home for the bishop, something like that. Or like let's say your queen, okay, let's say your queen wants to go here. So I'm going to move my queen here so your queen can't get there. Do you see that? That's prophylaxis. And he's playing f4 saying, hey, you want to play f4? Actually, I'm going to play f4 and we can continue from there. Okay. This is kind of getting interesting. King Dave, what is up? What is up? Welcome to the chat. We have a little emote spam over here. We're just doing some Stonewall Dutch lessons. Okay. So f4, the prophylaxis move, or prophylactic move, sorry. e4, rook a to d8 to support the pawn now. Rook a d1. Queen c7. Saying, okay, if you take, and I'm going to take. And now this is kind of weak over here. And maybe this bishop still can't come alive, but maybe in some lines it can. Okay, so queen c7, bishop h3. Oops, saying, okay, we got some life over here. After bishop h3, we play king f7, saying, okay, we're going to give the king a job for right now. After king f7, g captures f4, g captures f4. Only ruins remain of the once unbreakable Stonewall, but Black's position is nevertheless in excellent health. An extra triumph for Black is that his bishop is now visibly stronger, right? Now instead of being behind all of the pawns, right? Now we exchange some of them, now they're on different squares. Now we can put some pressure, if you will, on White's camp. So here he should play rook d2, but it wins an important tempo. But in the game, we played rook d3. So we played, and he gives a question mark in the text. Takes, rook d8. Very nice. Queen c3. Rook d4. You don't allow them to get counterplay. Rook f2. Queen captures e5. Rook d2. b6. Solid. Super solid. And then he avoided the, hold on. He avoided the rook captures e4 line because the queen's hanging, right? because queen captures e5, rook captures e5, rook d7 check, king f6, rook captures b7, rook e3, king f2, bishop c2, b6, gives white more counterplay. So sometimes, okay, this might be super winning for you, right? But why give them a chance to even play? They'll make more mistakes when they can't play. They'll try to give up something for activity, and that's what you want. So even though this is, I would say, a little bit better for black, I feel, just as the author did, saying, hey, why would I give him counterplay at all? Why should I give him any counterplay? It's my show. But okay, let's go back. So instead, we played b6. And then he played a5. This speeds up the end, but it's hard to find good moves. The bishop ending after rook captures d4, queen captures d4, queen captures d4, c captures d4. It looks unpleasant, and black can also keep the queens on. So b captures a5. Queen captures h5, bishop h5. After bishop h5, bishop g2, protecting the pawn, right? Because my bishop was attacking it, so now we're defending it. Maybe I would have preferred getting the king into the game, and then maybe putting the bishop on f1. Maybe. Really depends on your playing style. Or maybe that doesn't work at all. Bishop g2, queen d6. Now putting more pressure, saying, hey, what are you going to do with this rook? And either you're going to move it or you're going to take, and then I'll take with my queen or my pawn. So he played rook captures d4. And actually, rook captures d4 is quite losing. And the text gives rook f2 as the only way to kind of like keep fighting on. It seems a bit passive, but you keep fighting. And when your opponent doesn't have any counterplay, a seemingly modest advantage can be decisive, right? So when they don't have any moves at all, they don't have any play, then they're just scrambling for moves where you have a clear-cut method of how you want to proceed. And that's what kind of separates the good players from the great players. That kind of like thinking. Okay, but he played here. F1, D3 check. King G1. Queen E3 check. King F1. Bishop catches F3. And he's saying that the game is obviously decided. Bishop catches F3. Queen captures. King G1, King G. Queen E3. King F1, F3. Threatening mate in 2. Right, check and checkmate. Queen C7 check. Queen C7 check. King F6. Queen D8 check. King E5. Queen 8H check. King captures E4. King F4 is a little bit more correct, I think, but whatever. I think everything pretty much needs to mate. Queen catches A7 check. King D4. Sorry, so king captures E4, queen H7, king D4, queen H4. D3. Queen E1. Offering a trade, and then he has an outside pass pawn. E5. saying, hey, I'm going to get into the square, and then I'm going to have these pawns do work for me. And also, um, you can mate with 2 pawns. So e5, h4, e4, h5, queen g5, threatening checkmate, and then there's so much. I mean, what can you really do after like queen b1? I mean, there's so many ways to win here, but maybe even the simple like here, here, maybe even here, 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 hiding away. There's okay. There's no more after this, but if you want, we can try to solve this. Maybe let's say we play king d4, queen d1 check, king c3, queen a1 check. Maybe queen d2 is super winning. Yeah, I'm threatening. Oh, I'm not threatening that. I'm threatening here maybe, and then checkmate. So queen captures e2, queen captures e2. King f2, e3, and then we get a queen first. So, and we win. Okay. And move 8, a4, handled purely as a preparation for the bishop exchange, clearly isn't a major threat to the modern Stonewall. Next, we shall see the a pawn used as a weapon in the fight for queenside space in one of the top Stonewall encounters of all time. And now I know you're gonna like this one because it has my main man, Kasparov, playing the white pieces against Nigel Short. Thank you all for the emote spam. I really appreciate it. All the emote spam. Here we go. Okay. So let's go over this game. Now this is a rapid play match, and this is in game 1. This is in London, 1987. Okay. So let's go back. So d4, e6, and I think I'm going to start incorporating more e6 if somebody does play um, if somebody does play d4, because it can go into a variety of moves, right? If they play c4, I can play knight f6 and play like a Nimzo Bogo Indian, right? Or I can play a Queen's Indian. I can play d5. I can play c5. It's very rich. So I never, I've noticed the flexibility of e6, but I never knew like, okay, they have to be so wary of it as well. So they have to kind of think ahead from move 1. I remember one of my coaches, his name is Leonid Udasin. He was playing this guy, and I think on move 5 he played like a knight move, and he was like explaining to me that this is not just a knight move; it can transpose to so many things, and it's actually like a slight opening trap that he has never seen before, but he could realize it because it's like, okay, it can go into so many different openings. Udasin, for those of you who don't know, he was I think one of the top players of his time, and he was the top 10. I think he was a world champion candidate when he was playing chess actively. Okay, so d4, e6, knight f3, f5, g3, knight f6, bishop g2, d5. The short time limit, 25 minutes per player for the whole game, detracts somewhat from the quality of this game, but probably not from the opening moves, right? Because the opening moves they have prepared already. They know what they're going to play in the opening. The question is, what do you have for me in the middle game or in the end game? What have you prepared? And I'm going to try to tackle that. c4, c6, castles, castles, bishop d6, b3, queen e7. Short is one of the all-time greatest Stonewall players and experimenters. So if you want to watch a lot of Stonewall games, I recommend that you go on to chessgames.com and put in Nigel Short and then just look for his Stonewall games. Probably somebody's already made a collection of his Stonewall games, but that's how you get better in opening. They have the top people who are playing the openings have already done the homework for you. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. Just go ahead, see what works for them, and use it. It's like getting secret weapons for free. It's like getting a golden scar without any work in Fortnite. For those of you Fortnite players. Uh, Queen e7. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Queen e7. And he goes into sh- Nigel Short frequently tested out lines and setups bordering on the unsound. But against Kasparov, he goes for the main line. You can't mess with Kasparov. Kasparov was top notch back then. He still is now. I think he's teaching now, but he's top notch. You had to go all out for this guy. A4. Because even if he hasn't seen a line, his brain, high quality. And then we're gonna play castles. As experience with this kind of position has grown, A5, stopping any expansion on the queen side, has been firmly established as the main line. So they're saying that A5 is the main line. But I think he gave us the other move before just to say, hey, we can play this. And then Nigel Short played it. Why can't we play it? All right. And he played Bishop A3. I mean, black cannot really stop this move. So the immediate A5 could be considered, even though it would be easier for white to engineer the B5 break with his pawns on A4. Black's most natural continuation is the bishop D7, bishop A3, bishop captures A3, rook captures A3, knight E4. Okay, so here we're going to play bishop captures A3 and knight captures A3. Knight B D7. So black should still try to restrict white's queenside play by playing A5. So A5 is a theme that's going on over and over and over again. And it's a positional plus if you can do that because you stop white's queenside expansion. But he did not play that. He played knight b7. A5. This is the characteristic move. Most alternatives include knight c2, queen c1, queen c2, queen d2. They all seek to strengthen the control over e5 by getting a knight to d3 or the queen to b2. Okay? And then they kind of lead the game into the game we just went over. So a5, b6, interesting idea. Black sharpens the struggle by challenging white's queenside dominance. This is black's most popular choice, but knight e4 and then queen c2 gives white just a modest plus. Queen d2, saying, hey, maybe I want to go to b3, strengthening this. So it's a very multi-purpose move. This move has a somewhat strange first impression, as it invites black to gain a tempo by playing knight e4. But this is an illusionary as the queen has no intention of staying on d2. It wants to go maybe to b2. It wants to go out and attack. So knight e4, queen b2. We're strengthening our grip over this square. This somewhat unorthodox queen employment is actually quite common in the Stonewall. We shall see another example in the next game. From b2, the queen helps control e5, which is exactly why they played the bishop a3 line, so they can remove the bishop, which was the defender, which was the defender of e5. Now we're strengthening e5 with our queen. Also, it lets us attack on the queen side as well. Maybe get a rook over here and attack on the queen side. Maybe, okay? So, bishop b7, b4. White weakens the c4 square and thus the a6 f1 diagonal. B captures on a5. B captures on a5. Rook a b8. Putting the rook against in front of the queen. This is a common plan, a common idea. If you do not know where to develop your rook, sometimes it's best just to develop the rook in front of the queen, even if there are like pawns in front. Rook a b8. This game is the reason why black has started choosing a5 on move 8. Possibly undeservedly so, because Kasparov played a5, so they're like, hey, let's stop Kasparov's plan because Kasparov's Kasparov. You know, if it's good for Gary, it's good for me, kind of thing. And after rook a b8, rook fb1, maybe we can get the queen away later. c5. So just give me a second. Yes, this is going on YouTube, Jack, and King Dave, he totally agrees with me. um, and if you guys have any questions, go ahead and let me know, because people on YouTube might have the same question as you guys, and it'll possibly help me out as well. c5. Black opts for the maximum tension in the center, but bishop a6 looks a little bit more natural instead. Instead of this move, maybe bishop a6 just looks more natural, attacking the queen. Right? We play c5. He's trying to take advantage of white's 14 move, which is b4. Okay, and then we play queen c1 here. It wouldn't have been too surprising if Kasparov, who has never been afraid to invest some material for the initiative, tried the minor sacrifice. Queen captures bishop. The resulting position cannot easily be exhausted by analysis, as both sides have quite a lot of freedom of choice. White will obtain a quite pleasant position simply by picking up the a pawn, when his own advanced a pawn would be a significant factor. So this seems like a playable position. Looks pretty nice. But, you know, maybe Kasparov didn't want to go for this. Rook fc8. Getting our rook in front of the queen. Queen e3. And I just short plays c captures d4. Black prematurely releases the tension. After, he gives queen f6 an exclamation mark. Okay, his pieces will be more active after the inevitable central exchanges. Okay, but boom, queen captures d4, queen c5. We cannot see anything wrong with a6, because the queen here actually attacks the pawn, so nothing's wrong with just playing a6. Rook b5, getting the rook active. And you never want to take first. That's something you learn as a chess player. If you take first, you help your opponent develop. So don't take first, unless it's forced. I think if you can do that 90% of the time, you're going to be right. So we went here, queen captures, knight captures. King f7. He also gives the pawn sacrifice. D captures c4. Knight captures here, c3. Rook captures f5. Rook e8. And it seems to give black sufficient activity to keep the chances equal. So queen takes, knight takes. But he doesn't go for that. He plays f7. C captures d5. He said that rook a b1 looks strong too, but it's not all clear that white can claim any advantage after bishop a8. The following exchanges of all the rooks and black's more active king will be a significant factor. Bishop captures c5. Knight captures f5 exclam. Short must either have missed this relatively simple tactical shot or miscalculated one of the continuations. Knight df6. Bishop captures e4. Knight captures e4, because we also have this move here. And the reason that this works is because we're going to pick up the bishop after. So that's why it works. So knight captures e4. f3 is saying, hey, get this off so I can maybe play something. Or maybe I can play e4, shutting down the bishop. f3. E captures f5. Rook captures d5. Knight c3. Attacking. Rook captures f5 check. King e6. e4. g6. Rook g5. Rook b2. King h1. Probably doesn't want to get into the check line, so just avoid the check altogether. Okay, and then king f6 attacking here. h4 question mark. Rook f2 question mark. After h4, what is white's let's try? Knight e2 says leaves white struggling to retain equality. He should have instead played rook g1. Oh, sorry, rook g4 with the better game. Okay, so h4, and then he played rook f2. Rook c1. Rook d8, threatening checkmate if he takes the knight. Knight c4, preventing him from going here, doubling up the rooks, possibly claiming a draw. Knight e2. So then after knight e2, we play rook b1. Rook captures f3. King g2. The rook on the d file to d3. We're threatening an exchange. Or maybe not. Let's see, rook d3. Knight e5. Attacking both of the rooks. Rook captures g3. King f2. What a mind-boggling position this must have been to deal with time pressure. Remember, at the start of this game, I said it's a 25-minute game. So think about it. They had to think about all these moves in 25 minutes, and the quality is pretty good. And he played white's advantage. Hold on. He should have played knight c3 instead. Was better. Okay, so after rook c3, getting away from that knight's thing, that we have g4, king e6, king e2, he captures e2, c2 check, king f1, rook f3, king e1, rook h3, threatening checkmate. Wow. Rook e5 check. Now it's Kasparov's turn to attack. Rook e5 check. King d6, kind of dubious. He said that after king f7, it was just more drawn, and it would have been black's main hope. Rook d1 check. King c6. And then Kasparov plays knight f2. An elementary blunder. Obviously, time must have been low at this point. Rook d2 would have preserved white's winning advantage instead. So instead of this, he should have played that. And white's winning. But he didn't. And here, it's you should play rook e3, which is very easy to find. Rook e3 check, maybe here, and then bam. And then we're pinning the rook, we're pinning the knight, and then it's about equal. We have perpetual checks, and neither side is losing. But he plays rook captures h4, and eventually, unfortunately, Kasparov wins. But they just did it in a time scramble. They went over the moves, so I'll finish the game off. But they were all in a time scramble. So d8, rook a2. Rook a2, rook ed5, rook h2, attacking here, saying I'm going to try to attack you, or you're going to have to give me checkmate. So, rook, I just can't believe that the pressure, the pressure that goes in. So, rook d2, rook d2, rook captures a5. And then on rook captures a5, rook c2 check, king b7, rook d7 check, king b6, rook d3. Here we going for this. Rook b5, rook d6 check, king b7, king f1, g5, king g1, rook h4, king g2, a5, and knight d3. Back. Except your following sounds very familiar to me linguistically. Hey, happy penguin. Hey, welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. We're just doing a lesson on the Dutch Stonewall right now, and we're going over a game. Okay, so let's just keep going. And then he played knight d3, and knight d3. This finesse ensures that the e-pawn will decide the game. Rook g4 check, king f3, rook g1. Oh, sorry, he played King f3, rook g1, e5, g4 check, king f2, rook g to b1, e6, rook f5 check, king g2, h5, and this is a win for white. So I think our main takeaway is just play solidly with the black pieces when you're playing the Stonewall, and just look for chances to break, right? And just play a5 on move 8 here. After a4, maybe just a5. I mean, all the other moves are okay, right? You can castle. I mean, white has a slight edge, but in every opening, white has a slight edge, and we're kind of like preventing this from going anywhere. Okay, that's the main takeaway for today. As always, this is Japanese Tutor. If you did like this lesson, there are more on the YouTube channel and more coming. So hit that notification bell, hit the subscribe button. That lets me know that you appreciate what I'm doing and lets me know that you want future lessons. Uh, my Instagram, my Twitter are all down below. If you guys have anything you want to see, leave it in the comment section below. For now, it's Japanese Tutor.